This week on Hometown Ghost Stories, the unforgiving Alaskan Frontier is known for harsh weather, frigid temperatures, and expansive wilderness. Natural horrors that spell doom for the unprepared, but it's the supernatural horrors that most are not prepared for. Talkeetna is a small town that has no shortage of supernatural horrors. Join us as we dive into the history and hauntings that make Talkeetna one of the most paranormally active towns in the state of Alaska.
Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
The cold black eyes of the bear seemed like they were staring directly into Gary's soul. It was close enough where it could easily kill him with one swift swipe of its massive paw had it not been dead and suspended from the ceiling of the hotel bar. Gary worked at the Fairview Inn as a maintenance man. It was the day job that he kept while he tried to get his radio talk show off the ground. Day job being figurative since he was technically working the night shift. The hotel was eccentric, with its buffalo heads mounted on the wall and upside-down bear pelt hanging from the ceiling. It was like a cross between a Wild West saloon and a log cabin in the mountains. He liked it there, which made the job that much more enjoyable. He knew all the locals on a first-name basis, and everyone was pretty friendly. It was a slow night, however, and none of the upstairs rooms were rented out. There were a few stragglers sitting at the bar, but the dinner rush had, for the most part, cleared out. Gary figured it was a good time to take a quick break and walked towards the back door for a cigarette. The door opened to a brisk evening. Most evenings were brisk because, well, Alaska. It was a clear night, and the sky was full of twinkling stars as Gary lit the cigarette, the soft crackle of the paper burning and the aroma of tobacco smoke a sharp contrast against the cold Alaskan night. About halfway through his cigarette, he heard a noise that didn't make sense. It was the hot water pipes. Water was running on the second floor. On a busy night, something like that wouldn't be cause for any concern. It would just mean somebody was running the hot water. But on this particular night, nobody was or should have been up there. Gary stubbed out his cigarette and hurried over to the hotel logbook to double-check that there were no guests. After confirming, he hurried up the stairs to make sure a pipe hadn't burst. He headed right for the bathroom and found that no water was running, but the room was steamy as if someone had just been showering. Confused, Gary checked the shower and it was empty, but the floor was wet. The shower had been running. He scratched his head. The water had definitely been running, he heard it. He didn't see anyone come down the stairs on his way up, and now he was able to confirm that somebody had indeed been running the water in the shower. That's when he noticed something very unnerving. Wet footprints on the floor indicating that somebody had walked out of the shower and into the hallway very recently. Gary's blood ran cold as he began following the footsteps. He could make out the exact shape of the feet with the toes and all. The footprints led him out of the bathroom, down the hall, and ended at a solid wall, as if whoever the prints belonged to walked right into a dead end and disappeared. I'm Dave Wilkins, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Talkeetna, Alaska. Alaska is a beautiful place, but can also be terrifying. It's immense, it's isolated, its towns and cities are separated by expansive, unforgiving wilderness, and its land is filled with mysteries, murders, disappearances, and dark folklore that pepper Alaska's history. The harshness of the unforgiving frontier even led the indigenous people of the land to attribute each season with malevolent spirits. Autumn is represented by the Keelut, an evil hairless dog spirit that roams the frozen wastelands, drawn to the aura of fear and despair. He brings the omen of death, stalking during the twilight of the year. Summer is represented by the Kalupalik, a sea-dwelling creature with long clawed fingers and a haunting hum. It is said to abduct children who venture too close to the water's edge or disobey their parents. A warning to respect nature, particularly during the abundant yet perilous summer months when children may wander too freely. Spring is represented by the Uyularik, the shadows of the lost, malevolent spirits of those who became lost during the winter darkness. As spring brings longer days, these spirits linger, angry and confused, seeking to drag the living into the shadowy in-between realms. A cautionary tale about venturing out alone during the shifting seasons and the dangers of becoming spiritually lost. Winter is represented by the Wendigo, a gaunt, monstrous spirit associated with insatiable hunger, cannibalism, and spiritual corruption. It embodies the fear of losing humanity during starvation, a warning against greed, selfishness, and the desperate acts sometimes required to survive the brutal winter months. The town of Talkeetna began in 1916 when the area was chosen as a district headquarters for the Alaska Railroad. Before the town was established, the land that it sits on was home to the indigenous Alaskan people for 4,000 to 6,000 years. The land was partially glaciated, but the mountain people traveled the area using the rivers as highways. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Talkeetna became a hub for gold prospectors during Alaska's gold rush. The town grew as miners and adventurers traveled to the area, searching for fortune along the rivers and the mountains. With its proximity to Mount McKinley, Talkeetna became base for mountaineers attempting to summit North America's tallest peak. The town gained a reputation as a gateway for adventurers and tourists drawn to the natural beauty of the Alaska Range. Today, Talkeetna is known for its historic buildings and vibrant arts and crafts scene. It remains a destination for outdoor enthusiasts, and alongside its natural beauty and adventure opportunities, Talkeetna is also famous for its haunted history. Locations like the Fairview Inn and other historic sites are rumored to be home to lingering spirits, left behind by the people of Talkeetna's past. Located at the beginning of Main Street sits a small dark log cabin known as the Three German Bachelors Cabin. Built in the 1930s for a man named Frank Monekes, who shared the cabin with two brothers named Tony and Henry Mize, all three were bachelors from Germany, which inspired the name. After World War II ended, the Mize brothers would return to Germany, but Frank would remain in Talkeetna until his death in 1975. Now owned and maintained by the Talkeetna Historical Society, the years between this and when the German bachelors owned it, the house was used to shelter many locals. And over the years, rumors of the house being haunted began to spread. One winter, sometime in the 70s, 3 bodies were flown in from Mount McKinley. They were mountain climbers who perished on the mountain. One of Talkeetna's fearless pilots retrieved the bodies and was going to take them to Anchorage for proper burial. The weather was too bad to fly the 120-mile trip, so the pilot put the bodies in the basement of the Three German Bachelors' cabin. He and his family happened to have been living there at the time. This is where things started to get strange. The pilot and his family noticed that over the course of the few days they waited out the storm, something unusual would happen. All the shades in the house would always be drawn at night, but every morning at 7 a.m., the shades on the windows facing Mount McKinley would be wide open, as if the spirits of the dead men in the basement wanted to look at the place they met their cold demise. Other residents have complained of things moving around in the house, the front door blowing wide open, and dressers flying across bedrooms, leaving drawers and clothing scattered about the floor. One of the spirits known to haunt the cabin is that of a man who lived there long ago named 8-Ball. 8-Ball was a regular at the Fairview Inn, an establishment located down the street from the cabin, and after a night of debauchery at the inn, he was found deceased in the Three German Bachelors' cabin, His cause of death is unknown. This, of course, led to rumors about his death: murder, poison, adulterous affair, or even a mob hit. This also seems to be the point where people began to notice strange things occurring in the house. In Sarah Birdsall's book, Ghosts of Talkeetna, her brother Jonathan Durr shared his strange experience. He lived in the cabin during his sophomore year in high school with his friend Mark. Jonathan couldn't really explain it, but he always felt something strange in the house. At first, there was no real reason for it, just an uneasy feeling. He would stay at friends' houses as much as possible to avoid being in the house, but on school nights, there was no other option. Then, his uneasy feelings became justified. Strange things began to happen around the house. The radio would turn on and change channels all on its own. At first, it was a rare occurrence, but as time went on, it became more frequent. One night, Jonathan woke up and noticed a figure sitting on the pull-out couch across the room in the dark. This wasn't alarming, however, because it was where their friend Skip would sleep when he stayed over. Jonathan just assumed the figure was Skip. He even said, "Hi, Skip," before rolling over and going back to sleep. No cause for alarm, except that the next morning, there was no Skip. Jonathan asked Mark if Skip was over, and Mark told him no. The final straw for Jonathan was the light. There was a single light bulb in a fixture in the ceiling operated by a pull cord. The light began misbehaving one day. It would come on and go off without cause. One night, it went off and Jonathan went and turned it back on. Then, when he turned around to walk back to what he was doing, it clicked back off. Only this time, he actually heard the string being pulled. The Fairview Inn was built in 1923 by Ben Nauman and has been a destination for the adventurous ever since. The inn is most often frequented by ambitious climbers looking to get a head start on Mount McKinley. The same year it was built, the president at the time, Warren G. Harding, visited with his wife Flossie on their voyage of understanding. The trip was an attempt to improve his public image and connect with voters before his 1924 re-election campaign. He also wanted to escape the scandals that had plagued his presidency, including the Teapot Dome scandal. Harding's 1924 re-election campaign never happened, however. It's believed that he was poisoned at the Fairview Inn, causing him to fall ill and die just a few weeks later. Rumor has it, his wife poisoned his crab legs when they stopped in Talkeetna for dinner. The Fairview Inn still stands as it has for almost a century now as a mecca for Mount McKinley climbers and other adventurers from around the world. The two-story building has 7 rooms available for rent, each with its own name like Stephanie or Joe. The downstairs bar area has a Western saloon vibe with an old piano, several buffalo heads mounted to walls, and a bear pelt attached to the ceiling. Along with the unique decor come the ghosts. The Fairview Inn is believed to be very haunted. There are countless stories of visitors hearing footsteps and strange noises coming from vacant rooms, but there are a few stories that are particularly unnerving. One story comes from longtime employee Mark Ashworth. Back in the 1990s, Ashworth and a friend were playing a game of chess at a table by a window. One of the black pawns was missing, so they substituted it with a quarter. At some point during the game, the two men watched the quarter mysteriously roll off the board, off the table, onto the floor, across the room, where it bumped into a wall and fell over. When they looked back at the board, the missing pawn was there. Years later, Ashworth was telling the story to a longtime local resident who laughed and said, "That's the table where Frank Monekes used to sit and play chess by himself." Frank, before he passed, was one of the hotel owners as well as the owner of the 3 German bachelors' cabin down the street. Another ghost story came from former employee Kim Hoiby in the 1980s. Kim lived several hours from Talkeetna, so on nights she worked, she would stay in one of the vacant rooms. One particular night, none of the rooms were booked, so she had the hotel all to herself. She stayed in room 1, the room next to the bathroom. Sometime in the middle of the night, she heard footsteps walking down the hallway. Knowing she was alone in the hotel, she became alarmed and checked the hallway to see if someone had come in, but the hall was empty. She chalked it up to her imagination and went back to bed. Before she had a chance, she heard banging noises coming from room 2, the haunted room. It was possible that someone had checked in while she had been asleep, so she figured that must have been what happened. The following morning, she found room 2 empty and the logbook untouched. On another night, several years later, Kim was again staying in one of the rooms, this time room 2. On this occasion, she was awakened by the sound of something moving around in the room with her. It started out as a feeling that she wasn't alone, but her feelings were soon validated when she spotted movement at the foot of the bed. There was a dark figure leaning over the bed, pressing down on the mattress. Then, suddenly there was a thump and the bed moved slightly. The mattress creaked and a strange knocking sound at the foot of the bed began reverberating. Kim had had enough. She ran out of the room, out of the hotel, down to her car, and at 3 a.m. decided to drive all the way home, rather than stay another minute in that hotel. There are several other haunted locations in the town of Talkeetna, Alaska, including the Talkeetna Motel and Teepee Lounge, said to be haunted by the ghost of Evil Alice. She was called Evil Alice due to her time working in the Anchorage doctor's office, where she had a reputation for reporting sex workers seeking medical care to the police. Her ghost is believed to haunt the motel and lounge that she built and managed for many years. There's also the Alaska Mountaineering School building that used to be the town's Baptist church. It's said to be haunted by the Radiant Women in White, an apparition who's been spotted on numerous occasions throughout the old building. But perhaps the most mysterious haunting, in my opinion anyways, is that of the ghost of George Toughlock. Somewhat of a legend in Talkeetna, there isn't a ton of information on him, but he lived in a cabin with his family near the railroad tracks where his headless body was discovered after being struck by a train. He was buried in a nearby burial ground where a Native American spirit house once stood. Since then, people have reported seeing his headless ghost roaming the area at night.
What's up, folks, and welcome into Hometown Ghost Stories, episode number 150. I'm Jesse Wilkins. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Rob.
I am going to go out on a limb and say that everybody that's ever been named 8-Ball has died under mysterious circumstances. I think that's a fact, right? That has to be a fact.
Yeah, it's a real sneaky name, you know. I would assume mostly alleyway stabbings. That just seems like most of the way that 8-Ball is going to go out.
Yeah.
Maybe some sort of a shady deal or something like that, but
maybe he gets caught in the landing gear of an airplane full of cons.
That could happen.
Mm-hmm. It was Dave Chappelle's character. Oh, it was Pinball, not 8-Ball. That was close.
Wow. That's all right. You did great. We'll edit that out. We're also joined by Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hey.
Nice job on that. I really like the opening of this thing where you kind of listed off all of the ghosts that do things at certain points of the year. Very creepy, cool imagery going on there.
Yeah, really creepy stuff. I thought that was interesting too, and I was reading about that because there's a lot of the Inuit tribe up in that area had a lot of influence back before it was settled, and that was a lot of their beliefs about the seasons and whatnot. And I thought it was pretty fascinating.
That was pretty cool. But wow, 150 episodes. I feel like that's a milestone.
It's pretty good.
Pretty cool. We'll celebrate it by talking about it. We're also joined by live chat. We want to say what's up to everybody and thank you guys for hanging out. We got 50 gifted Hometown Ghost Stories memberships from Brenda C. Thank you so much, Brenda. That's very generous of you. Always covered in and just dropping huge donations, and that is awesome stuff. Also, Jeannie, who is the RIP of the week, gifted 10 Hometown Ghost Stories memberships. So thank you so much, and congrats on being our RIP of the week from the great state of Alaska. I believe this is our second time covering Alaska.
Third, technically. We did Skagway, and we also did one of our Christmas episodes was like a 2-part, one of which was in, I forget what town, but it was in somewhere in Alaska.
Yeah,
Bethlehem.
North Pole, Alaska,
North Pole.
of course. We don't talk about it, though. We don't talk about the
episode.
Christmas episode.
Nope.
It was our least listened to episode. Go listen to our Christmas episode from 15 years ago and get that one up the charts. Also, if you are a Patreon member, the $3 tier and up, you can get early access to a movie review for 28 days later right now. And if you're part of the $10 or $20 tier, we have a special show from this month that is brought to you by Dave. So that's a good one as well to go listen to. Make sure you check that out, plus some back episodes on that. Make sure that you're doing that. We're doing a t-shirt giveaway at the end of this show. So make sure that you give us your 5-star review. If you have emailed us your 5-star review, please do that one more time. And gentlemen, we can't quite do it yet, but we are dangerously close to announcing the next place that we are investigating. So I'm hoping that we can do that next week, but we'll see.
Dangerously close.
Dangerously close.
Back up a little bit.
Yes.
Absolutely right. But yeah.
Yes.
Very
So
good.
I want to special thanks to Jeannie R, because she obviously is the RIP of this week. She is a Talkeetna resident, and for Christmas she sent us this book in the mail. I don't know if you guys know, because I kind of it went to me, so I just kept it for myself and read it and didn't share it with you guys.
We're all shocked.
Yeah. She sent me this book. It's by Sarah J. Birdsall. It covers all the hauntings in Talkeetna. It's called The Ghost of Talkeetna. I strongly recommend it. It's really well written, and we appreciate that. So I figured this place has plenty to cover, and I only covered 2 locations. I mentioned the 3rd location, but there's probably 15 different locations in this book, and it's all really fascinating stuff. So strongly recommend, and thank you so much for sending that to us. That was really thoughtful.
Yeah, absolutely. A W move there. It's funny because I almost actually texted you guys about that book. So I remember you had sent us a picture to the group chat like a while ago when she first sent it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I was going through some pictures of Talkeetna today, putting together our little intro video there. And a picture of that book popped up. And I had forgotten that Jeannie had gotten that for us. And I almost texted you guys a picture of it, saying that like, maybe I'll get this, but maybe I won't, because I'm so scarred from the Ghosts of Okinawa book, which is a very similar title. If you missed out on that one there, go back and check out my review of the book on the Ghosts of Okinawa.
Book.
A small pamphlet stapled together and sliced poorly, some say.
Some
Yeah,
are
so scarred from that one. But
Some are saying it's still laying on the spot that Jesse threw it to.
I left it on the ground for quite some time. Yep. Not entirely sure where it ended up, but probably the trash. Anyways, that is cool. I actually didn't know that was Jeannie's hometown. So that is pretty cool. That is the name of the show, is Hometown Ghost Story. So we're bringing you a real authentic hometown ghost story today. So that's pretty cool.
I do always get nervous when I cover somebody's hometown per request. Technically, she didn't request that we cover this. She just sent us the book. But yeah, I'm like, oh, what if I screw it up? I hope I don't get it all wrong. And they're like, why did I request this for these idiots to cover? So hopefully I didn't screw it up too bad. But Talkeetna is a pretty cool place. I spent the week looking into it, and it's actually definitely a place I would absolutely visit. It looks really cool. It's right outside of Mount Denali or Mount McKinley. They keep changing the name of this mountain back and forth. So I just went with McKinley because that's how the book referenced it. So yeah, that's the mountain we're talking about. It's actually the tallest mountain in the United States. Might be the tallest in North America, but definitely at least in the United States, which is pretty cool. Very big mountain. And
one of my favorite things about Alaska is I'll probably mention this every Alaska episode. I don't know if I have before, but Alaska has the Alaska Triangle, which is but the problem with the Alaska Triangle, if you ever look at it on a map, somebody just drew a triangle as large as they could to cover the entire state of Alaska. It's like, it's just Alaska. It's just literally Alaska.
It's just their way of saying the state's fucking scary.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically. But I mean, it's not even just Talkeetna, like the whole state is wilderness, and people are always going missing and getting lost, and really there's a lot of mysterious things going on up there. But before we get into the ghosts of Talkeetna, we have to talk about.
I do want to show you guys a little map of the This is called the Alaskan Bermuda Triangle, which is a little confusing if you look at a map. Alaska and Bermuda very close to each other, but it does cover a ton of ground here. I mean, a triangle's a triangle,
Sure.
right? But this covers a large portion of Alaska. So,
some are saying too much.
We don't make the rules on triangles, and
we don't make the rules on triangles. Yeah,
that triangle is larger than every other state. Every state in the country.
It probably is bigger than most. Yeah, in America.
But anyways, what I was saying was, before we get into the ghost of Talkeetna, I want to talk about Stubbs the cat, because Stubbs the cat is a local celebrity in this wacky town of Talkeetna. So Stubbs the cat was actually, let me back up a little bit. So Talkeetna, you haven't even
started. How can you back up?
Well, because I was going to get into it, and I want to get the story right, because it's great.
We can't besmirch the good name of Stubbs the cat.
No, we wouldn't want that. So Talkeetna is technically an unincorporated historic district with no mayor, and they were talking about electing a mayor at one point for Talkeetna, and they had a few people that were going to run that were proposed nominees, and the town didn't like any of them. So when they finally actually did have an election, everyone just wrote in Stubbs the cat, and Stubbs the cat won unanimously, and he served as the mayor from 1997 until 2017.
It's a long time. So they just straight up didn't need a mayor, or Stubbs was doing a great job.
It's a monarchy at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's 20 years. That's like what, 5 consecutive terms? He's an autocrat. And Stubbs was a free spirit who wandered around the town, getting fed and making himself comfortable. He was known for drinking a mixture of water and catnip out of a wine and margarita glass. So, just typical politician, right? And he was a tourist. On the job. Yeah, he was a tourist attraction, with visitors coming to meet him and taking pictures. Is that Stubbs?
That's Stubbs.
There he is.
Stubbs,
a handsome guy.
Yeah, good cat. They better make a statue for him.
They absolutely should.
Yeah. I wanted of the one of him drinking out of the alcohol glass. There you go, Talkeetna. That is your statue, and it better be life size.
For audio listeners, we have an image of Stubbs the cat looking like he's on about his 6th or 7th glass of cat wine there.
Yeah.
And drinking straight out of it. I mean, that is a drowsy wine face right there.
Yeah. Living his best life, Stubbs the cat. Or was. R.I.P. What a legend.
Yeah, absolute legend. He was a tough son of a bitch too. So he went through some shit in his life. He survived being shot by teenagers with a BB gun. He fell into a restaurant.
Life in jail. Life in jail for those teenagers. What are we doing?
Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. At one point, he fell into a restaurant fryer, but it was turned off and cool at the time. So that could have been
hang on. We have to discuss this, because that really sounds like someone tried to cook this cat and was like, "Oh, fell in." Cats didn't fall into the fryer later. You tried to cook Stubbs. Well, probably the same teenagers that shot at him.
Maybe. But fortunately, the oil was cool at the time, because I feel like if it wasn't, there's just no surviving that. And one time he accidentally hitched a ride in a garbage truck, but was discovered and returned. And then in 2013, he was mauled by a dog, which required surgery, but he made a full recovery. So this dude was an absolute thug.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy life Stubbs had.
So he set the precedent for Talkeetna politics. He died in 2017, and instead of electing a human mayor, the town named 2 other cats honorary mayors. That's Aurora and Denali, 2 cats co-serving as mayors, and Aurora continues to serve as mayor to this day.
Perfect.
So, Talkeetna is just governed by cats.
All right.
Get that Stubbs statue up there, Talkeetna.
Yeah, I would say get on that immediately. But so on to the hauntings, I suppose. So we covered the 3 German bachelors' cabin first, and this was a pretty cool story. that was it was covered in the book by Sarah Birdsall, and I was actually able to find a couple other hauntings that weren't in the book. And one of them was the hikers that got stranded on Mount McKinley there, and they died, and nobody wanted to go retrieve the bodies because it was a perilous trek up the mountain, except for one guy who happened to have a small plane, and he was able to go onto the mountain, get the bodies, and then bring them back. And he had to stop in Talkeetna, where he lived, in order to wait out a storm. And he just kept the bodies in the basement of that cabin, which, I mean, good on him for doing that. I don't know if I would want to keep 3 bodies in my basement while I slept in the house. I don't know. It seems weird.
Yeah, don't knock it till you try it.
I also like the way that they named stuff back then, where they just make the most literal name of all time. It's like, there's 3 single guys that live there. Call it the 3 bachelors the cabin.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones who built it, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But yeah,
is it the original bachelor pad?
I know, right? Yeah, it was built in the 30s by 2 German brothers and their cousin, and they were all in fact bachelors, which is pretty funny. But this story about the hikers on the mountain is, it seems like a quick little haunting story. Like you just meant, you meant the windows were open, whatever. But this is one of the most eerie hauntings I can remember reading about. And you have the 3 bodies of the hikers that perished on the mountain, and every morning while the bodies are in the basement, they find all of the shades of the side of the house that faces the mountain wide open, despite having closed all the shades in the house. And I think that's so eerie, as if the spirits that were in the basement were looking out the window to go look at the place where they died. Yeah, I don't know. Gives me the chills.
Very, very different.
I have a report from somebody who stayed in the cabin and experienced some stuff. I can go over it real quick if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no one told me about the log cabin in Talkeetna, Alaska that I was buying in 1999, that it was haunted, not even my daughter from whom I was buying the property. So this person actually bought and lived in this cabin that he bought off, or I don't know if this is written by a man or woman, but this person bought it off their daughter, and not even the daughter informed this person that it was haunted. So it seems that many residents of Talkeetna had lived in this cabin at various times over the last 70 or 80 years, and those still living had bone-chilling stories to tell of their ghostly experiences. At one time back in the early 1900s, small children lived in this cabin and were very mischievous. I heard that on the stairway late one night, voices could still be heard laughing and giggling. An especially entertaining story was told to me one night by a resident who had lived at the cabin in the 1980s. One winter, sometime in the early 70s, 3 bodies were flown in from Mount McKinley, which we were just talking about. So they were mountain climbers who perished on the mountain. One of Talkeetna's fearless pilots retrieved the bodies and was going to take them to Anchorage for a proper burial. The weather was too bad to fly the 120-mile trip, so the pilot put the bodies in the basement. He and his family were living in the cabin then, and this is where it gets weird. My friend told me that every day at 7 a.m., the spirits of these 3 men would pull up the shades of the second-floor windows facing Mount McKinley to see if the mountain is out that day, meaning if they could see the mountain. So this is obviously the story that you just told, but it goes on, opening the door. My daughter, who claimed to be a non-believer, said that she and her husband thought it strange that on several occasions in the evenings, they would close the front door securely only to have it fly open unexpectedly. When asked by many residents if I had encountered any such phenomenon, I assured them, of course not. But a strange and unexplained thing did happen one night. I was downstairs watching TV when I heard a loud thump upstairs next to those mysterious windows. Upon checking, there was a large, heavy dresser on the floor. Drawers and clothes were scattered. My friends told me that it was a goodbye gift from the ghosts as I was leaving the next day. So that is some heavy poltergeist-like activity, knocking over a dresser, scattering the clothes all over the floors, right near those same windows that the shades seem to pull up. So seems like whoever wrote this article, they did not experience much hauntings, but on the final night, that was what they experienced there. So pretty cool stuff. And that was, Dave, you're muted. That was from the Columbian. That's where we got that, thecolumbian.com.
Yeah, that's exactly where I found that story, actually. So that was, yeah, interesting stuff. And then the story that was from the Ghost of Talkeetna book was about the author's brother, Jonathan, who lived there during high school for just his sophomore year, and he lived with his friend Mark. I told most of the story. There's actually more to this story. So the story, I ended it where Jonathan ran out of the cabin and never came back. But Mark actually stayed there, and he stayed there for several years. And while he was there, he slipped into depression and became reclusive and didn't really talk to anybody. And then there was one instance that Mark never spoke of that made him move out of the house and never go back. And he actually moved to Nevada and just stopped talking to everyone. And all he said about it was that it was something happened in that house. I'm never going to tell anybody what happened to it, but I will never go back. And he left, and no one ever heard from him again. The author said that she looked into whatever happened to Mark after he went to Nevada, and he said that he'd passed away a few years after he left, which was not very old because he was in high school. So,
Yeah. So
the theory is that there's something dark either in that cabin, whether it's the ghosts or it's something that's older than the ghosts. They think there might be a really old malevolent spirit that is causing a lot of this to go on. So
that's crazy. Before we got to that point, when you were saying that the windows were open and then we heard that the door was open, we talk about unfinished business with spirits sometimes, and it's almost felt like the spirits were trying to get back to the mountain to finish their climb, maybe was where I was going. But when you start to hear the other things, perhaps there's either multiple things going on there or just something very, very scary.
Yeah, I agree. Are you guys getting feedback from my microphone? I saw a comment.
There's a little high-pitched thing, but I don't think it's a huge deal. We'll edit that out.
Should I lower the tone of my voice?
No, it actually made it worse.
Oh, all right.
But that's all right. We'll move on.
Very good. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, that's the 3 German bachelors cabin. That's a lot of hauntings for a building so small. I don't know if you guys saw the pictures of this place, but it was very, very small.
Yeah, tiny little cabin.
Little guy. So we also covered the Fairview Inn. This place is pretty interesting. It's got wild decor on the inside. If you're listening and didn't happen to see any of the visuals, they literally have an upside down bear pelt hanging from the ceiling, along with a disco ball and several bison heads knocked to the wall.
Took us 150 actual numbered episodes to get there, but we finally got an upside down bear. So There we go.
Absolutely. And yeah, the place is pretty much, it's been haunted since it opened, and everyone who's ever worked there has a bunch of haunting that they share. There's a lot of them in this book. I only told a couple of them, but they're pretty much everyone who ever steps foot in this building is haunted by something. And it's pretty weird, the history of it too. We go back to President Warren Harding, he was taking a trip with his wife, getting ready for his reelection, campaigning around the country. Alaska was newly incorporated into the United States. So he's like, I'll go to Alaska and talk to the 11 people who live there to get their votes.
Read those.
Yeah. And apparently while he was there, the rumor is that his wife poisoned his food, which caused him to get sick and die a few days later. The official story is he went to Alaska, and then from Alaska, he went to California. And while in California, he had a heart attack and died. He definitely got food poisoning when he was in Alaska. So they think that she might have put poison in his food, which poisoning somebody's food and getting food poisoning doesn't mean the same thing.
Correct.
But maybe you could poison somebody's food, which result in them getting food poisoning. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, technically, yes, right? Like technically,
yeah, I guess so.
Could be both.
It could be both.
Could have spoiled the food with the poison.
She could have poisoned bad food, and he got food poisoning and food poisoning. So it could have been both things. And they said the weirdest part actually is the reason that they said that they suspect she may have poisoned his food was to save him the shame of the scandal that was about to be. He was about to go be put through the ringer for in
Probably
Congress.
should have ran that by him first. Like, hey, would you rather deal
know.
with the scandal or be dead?
Yeah. Yeah, I bet he probably would have preferred to deal with the scandal. It was, I think, a like an insider trading thing regarding oil futures or whatever. But yeah, I think dead is probably worse. So
I'd assume so.
he's believed to be one of the spirits who haunt this place.
Also, why'd you have to ruin the crab legs? Crab is so delicious.
It's so expensive.
Too much work.
In Alaska too, it's probably Alaskan king crab. Some expensive stuff.
It could be
too much work though. I just, it's good, but meh.
What are you catching the crabs?
No, like having to break the legs open and do all that nonsense. Like,
No, just don't even break them open. Just eat the whole thing. I'm
Nobody
kidding.
does that.
No, nobody does that.
Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Dip them
It
in
is good
ketchup.
though.
Oh God.
You would too. You would too. So I got one quick little ghost story that was posted online by.
Before we get off the crab thing, I do remember I went out for crab a few years ago, and they give you like the bibs, but I'm a grown man and I can't wear a plastic bib. I'm not wearing that. I should have worn the bib. I got it all over myself. Like I was I looked like a toddler.
Ironic that you wouldn't
surrounded
wear it 'cause
by
you're a grown man.
surrounded by adults wearing bibs, and I'm the one who looks like a toddler. So
Oh, that's
wear the bib,
hilarious.
folks. Wear the bib.
Yeah, definitely wear the bib. You don't want to get ketchup all over your shirt when you're eating crab.
Oh no.
So this story was posted by a lady named Judy Vars in May of 2012. She had stayed in the fair. No, I don't even think she stayed in the Fairview, and I think she was just visiting and popped in to take a look at the historic building. So this is her story. She says, "We strolled into the Fairview Inn like a couple of tourists. I asked the bartender if this place is haunted, and she said, 'Of course it's haunted.' I joked and said we should have the ghost hunters come for a lockdown, and they can yell at them all night. I wandered off to explore a little bit when I walked into this empty room. It felt weirdly like I had seen it in a dream. The television was on and oddly playing a real old Laurel and Hardy movie. The room got colder and goosebumps rose on my arms, and my hair began to stand on end. Sharon was standing in the doorway, flipping out. She said she had never felt her hair stand on end like that before. I got a picture of the room before the batteries on my camera went completely dead, and we ran out into the bar laughing and freaking out at the same time. I said there is a ghost in the smoking room, and the bartender said, that is not surprising. There is a man buried beneath the floor. She said, oh my God, lady, you might have warned us, but then where's the fun in that? It was a great day." I thought this was a pretty good story because it had that creepy little twist at the end. I did research it to see if I could find any information on the man buried beneath the smoking room, and I couldn't find anything. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. That doesn't mean there's actually not a man buried there. But I would have liked some validation. I do think that it's possible that the hotel bartender was just screwing with it.
Right, fair.
Yeah.
But also, if it's true, please tell me in the first place. I would like to know that there's a body below my feet if I'm in a hotel.
Yeah, I think like if you're staying in that room, you gotta tell me. If I'm just passing through, whatever.
Yeah, I guess fair enough.
But
there's a lot of Fairview inns that are haunted. If you look up, I guess it's a pretty common name. Yes. First building I ever watched burn down was the Fairview Inn in our hometown.
That's right. Marshfield.
Our mother let us take school off to go watch that building burn down. They since rebuilt it. It seems like a weird story, but it's not every day that you get to watch a historic building burn to the ground.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Yeah, that one is rumored to be haunted as well.
Yep, it is. I was part of the latest renovation of that building, actually. So that was fun and exciting. I didn't see any spirits, though. And usually the renovations stir up the spirits.
Did you bury anyone underneath the floors?
I completely forgot to do that.
Well, that's why you didn't see any spirits. You got to start doing your own work there. If it's not haunted, you make it haunted.
We should open our own hotel/inn where every room on the first floor has a body buried underneath it, but there's also a glass part in the floor that lets you look down at the body.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good business model.
Patent pending, trademarked. Please don't steal our idea or our bodies.
We'll have the Beezel bar in the lobby.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
Got to do it. Absolutely. Rick Shields offers a little bit of background on some of the ghosts that might be haunting this place. Now, Rick Shields is a maintenance man at the Fairview, and he says the ghosts who haunt the inn are the spirits of Jeff Schaff and Rocky Cummins. Schaff was a military man and a gardener. Cummins was a trapper and a miner. Miner with an E. He was an adult. There are pictures of them on the walls of the inn. Apparently, the strange things happen, like toilets flushing by themselves, items being knocked over or in different places. There will be knocking sounds, etc. A lot of action takes place in room 1, where Schaff and Cummins usually stayed. And I think this is interesting because he says the hauntings are in room 1, while most haunting accounts come from room 2. I talked about a few of them in the opening ghost story. You had the woman who worked there who she'd stay over at night while she worked because she lived far away. And then one night somebody was pushing, or something was in the room pushing down on the bed, which caused her to run to her car and drive 3 hours home at 3 a.m. And then the same woman had a different experience in room 1, but the experience was her hearing things going on in room 2, which is allegedly the haunted room. So, it's a small building, so maybe both rooms are haunted. Maybe all the rooms are haunted by the same spirits. Maybe they're not confined to one particular room. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that's the case more often than not. Maybe there's always the concentrated room, like where things happen, and sure, spirits may be locked into that one room on occasion. But I think that more often than not, that activity can transcend more than that 10 by 10 room or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think the more likely scenario is if there are spirits haunting a building, they're probably roaming around the building. But I think you could get a residual haunt that sticks to one room. Sure. If there's a residual haunt of someone going through the motions in the kitchen, they're not going to do that in the garage for no reason. So I think both could be true at the same time.
Sure.
Right. Another haunted location that I briefly mentioned towards the end of the opening video there was the Talkeetna Inn, the Teepee Lounge. And this is the building that is haunted by the spirit of Evil Alice. And Evil Alice wasn't a really nice person, apparently. Hence the name Evil Alice.
Absolute narc.
Yeah, really not a cool thing to do. So it's not a cool thing to narc on anyone, pretty much ever. There's very few things that you're justified in being a rat. But I mean, these were sex workers that were just trying to get health care, and she worked at the doctor's office, and she was ratting them out to the police. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's mean. But she's believed to haunt the Talkeetna Inn, and this place is operated by Al and Pam, and they've operated the place for years. I don't know if they still operate it, but at the time the book was written, they were the ones operating it. And this story comes courtesy of Pam. And she believes the spirit of Alice still haunts the inn, and it sometimes possesses her. Not like a full-on possession, but the way Pam explains it is she claims that sometimes she'll feel mentally drained while still being physically energetic, almost like something is, draining her, like her mental energy, and she's still able to function at a high rate.
At least she's not calling the cops on all of her guests.
Yeah,
and reporting them for nonsense.
Right. So
doesn't that violate like
HIPAA? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when this was. I think Alice was maybe the 1930s, 1940s. So I don't know if there were HIPAA rules back then. But even if it was not a HIPAA rule, like, just don't do that.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Don't be evil, Alice.
Yeah. So 1998, 1999 is around the time this happened, and Pam was working. It was late at night, and she was prepping in the kitchen for the next day. And for whatever reason, she couldn't get Evil Alice off her mind. Evil Alice used to be an owner of this building. And,
okay, did they call her Evil Alice while she was alive?
Yeah.
Like to her face. Maybe that's why. Maybe she's like, the whole town calls me Evil Alice. Evil Alice is going to do evil things. She opens up a window. Jen has herpes.
No, they.
I don't think this is a chicken and egg situation, Jesse. I think she earned her name first.
Yes, she earned the moniker due to her behavior at this doctor office that she used to work at. So that's why they called her Evil Alice. But Pam couldn't explain it. She's like, she just couldn't get Evil Alice off her mind. It was bothering her, whatever. So it's probably around 3 a.m. at this point. There's no windows in the kitchen, so there's no way for light to come in. I don't know why that detail was important because it's 3 a.m. I don't know, Alaska, maybe it was light out at 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't think of that. That's possible.
Could have been one of those partly sunny nights.
Yeah, really. And so there's no way for light to come in, and they're in the process of a remodel. So Al had the ceiling in the kitchen open and exposed, and it led to there being poor lighting in the room. So she's doing her food prep, and suddenly out of the corner of their eye, she sees a weird light come down from the ceiling, and it comes down and it glides across the kitchen and into the dining room at a quick speed. And she said it was moving unnaturally. And she explained it as a yellowish glow, and it was long, about 2 feet long, and it was bright in the middle and kind of cloudy around the edges. And it just came down. It was probably about 2 or 3 feet tall and skinny. It just came down from the ceiling and just glided into the other room and disappeared. And she said that she was sure that was the ghost of Evil Alice because of the fact that she couldn't get her off her mind. So she felt like she might have been kind of being softly possessed. So even if it's not the ghost of Evil Alice, even if she was mistaken about what that ghost was, I mean, it still sounds like a ghost or paranormal at least.
Haunting, yeah.
So even if it was a different ghost, it was a creepy one.
We don't hear about those lights indoors as much as we hear about them like outdoors. So that's a very different wrinkle. I don't know if we'd even like classify that as a corpse light from some of this other stuff we've done. So
could be
same idea.
But if I want to put on my my skeptic hat, I don't know what that could be. Just the way she described it. If it was, I don't know what that could possibly be. A lot of times you hear about a haunting, you're like, oh, it could have been this, it could have been that.
That's something where it's like, if you were to catch that on camera, or like if you caught a video of it, or if it was something that you were taking pictures of, you could dismiss it as a light flare. But if it's something you're just witnessing with the naked eye, I don't really have an explanation for that.
Yeah, me neither. So Susan came and says she was only softly possessed. Yeah. I don't know. So if you're talking about demonic possession, they have like hard categories for the different stages of possession. But if you're feeling like, I mean, maybe the use of the word possession wasn't the right word. Maybe she meant influenced or bothered by this, or she felt like it was, if the energy was just so strong that it was affecting her, so not like a full on demonic possession, but something a little less intense. Another ghost story about this building was told by a guy named Bill Barstow, and he was at the inn's bar with one of his friends, and he looks down and sees this curly-haired guy smiling at the end of the bar. The guy raises tumbler glass full of whiskey in a cheers motion towards Bill, and Bill thought that was weird, so he nudged his buddy and said, "Hey, do you know that guy?" And the friend looked over and said, "What guy?" Bill's like, "The guy at the end of the bar," and he looks back over and points, and the guy's gone. And so that freaked Bill out. So he reaches out to his friend Sarah, who was the author of this book, and he tells her the story and explains the guy. And she's like, that sounds familiar. He sounds like the guy who used to drum in my brother's band. Weird. Let me ask my brother about that, because the drummer of the band had passed away. So she calls up her brother and says, "Hey, John, the drummer of your band, he kind of looked like this, right?" And blah, blah, blah. What was his drink? What would he drink? He's like, "Oh, he used to get he'd always drinking whiskey out of the short tumbler glass." And he said he used to sit at the end of that bar. So she thinks that might have been the ghost of the drummer.
Oh, sounded like all I could picture was Mark Zuckerberg, just curly hair, just creepy smile at the end of the bar. That's definitely what Mark Zuckerberg would do.
Smoking meats,
and just sipping bourbon, I guess.
Just being a human.
All I could think about during that story was the name Bill Barstow, and how somebody with that name only lives in cold climates like Alaska or Minnesota.
Bill Barstow. all the names here are kind of like you get Bill Barstow, and then you got George Toughluck was my favorite name.
That's another. And then you get what was it, Pam and Al?
Pam and Al.
What do you think the percentages of couples that are definitely named Pam and Al? Like that's such a pairing.
Yeah,
it's just Al is Al and Pam. There's Pam and Al. Like I feel like I know at least 14 couples older, in their 50s or 60s named Pam and Al.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, yep. It just becomes their first names, each of them.
Listen, Pam, if you're out there and you're single, you got to go find Al. Al's been waiting for you. Yeah. So, and then any Al's out there, just go find your Pam.
Yeah, just open up a phone book from 30 years ago because that's the last time phone books were around.
And just hope that Pam's alive.
Yeah, just find her.
Yep. Yeah, Jessica says a little close to Al and Peg Bundy.
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of George Toughluck, this was the last ghost that I had mentioned in the opening story.
Savannah says Pam and Alan, they run the HOA.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
So the legend of George Toughluck, I mean, kind of a legend. Apparently he was a real guy. He really did live in that house that that I don't know if the house is there anymore. I forget. But he really was a guy who was struck by a train, got his head knocked off, allegedly. His grave still sits in, you can actually go see his grave. And if you want, so he was an actual person who existed, but the legend behind it, that he had his head knocked off by a train, I don't know if that was true or what, but he definitely did exist and he definitely did die. And he is now said to haunt the surrounding area from where his body was found. And he haunts in the form of the apparition of a headless ghost, which is always very creepy.
I feel like that's too random of a story, too specific of a story to make up. That had to have been how he went.
Yeah, I know. I do think that sounds awfully specific. So, but you don't know if it's one of those things where, people tell the story and then it gets a little bit bigger and then they start talking about a haunting to.
Dave, he was hit by a fucking train. Like, I'm sure more than just the head came off at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless he was like having a peek. Could happen. Or intentional. Maybe laid down and that's how he wanted to go.
Yeah.
Not how I'd want to go, but that's a possibility.
Yeah,
or it could be the other way around, where people started seeing a headless ghost and then added the story to fit the ghost description.
Could be. That could be. Yeah. So his, I know his grave exists. I don't know, like if he actually was hit by a train or whatnot. I think that's the part that's hard to verify, like his cause of death. But there's allegedly the ghost of a headless man that walks through that forest, and there is a grave of George Toughluck. Which that's his name, Toughluck.
Yeah. Can't rule out that he survived that train incident and died from something else.
Without a head.
Hey, we got to leave all the possibilities open. We don't have any records.
I'm gonna say he didn't. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess he didn't survive. But yeah, that's Talkeetna. There's a lot of haunted locations in there. I don't know if we'll do a part 2. I wouldn't mind going out there to visit. But again, the book that I referenced a lot of these stories from is called The Ghost of Talkeetna by Sarah J. Birdsall. It was really well done. Check it out. I recommend it.
Donnie wonders if his ghost is wandering through the forest, just walking into every tree. Too soon, Donnie. Too soon.
Yes. Well, that was a very cool episode. Always like hearing about stuff from Alaska. Do we want to do our shirt giveaway?
Sure.
Real quick. Before we do, one more thing about giveaways. We are still waiting to see if these Furbies actually come in. I have spent way too much time yesterday trying to track them down. It's a nightmare. The winners of those, if we do not get the Furbies in, we will make good and get you something.
Yeah, we'll get something else if it's starting to look like it's not going to happen. So not really in our control. Waiting for the shipment to come in, hasn't come in. So if not, we'll get you something else. But we're going to do a new batch of shirts that's going to be much different. It's going to be a lot of fun. So
yes,
we'll keep people posted on those.
And that was what I was going to bring up next. If you win this shirt giveaway, you have all our shirts. Let us know, and we will write you down and get you on the list to get one of the new shirts. But without further ado, remember,
long story short, if you win anything, you might get it in the next 4 years. That's pretty much where we're at on things to give away at this moment.
I know we will give you things. We just have to, just a reminder, 5-star review on any platform, either show us on Discord, send us an email with it, and you'll be eligible the next time we do this. I'm trying to do it every 50 to 100 reviews we get on Spotify and Apple. So I'm doing this one a little early, but we'll have another one in a month or two. So make sure you get your reviews in. Without further ado, here's our wheel. We are going to spin it, and I am excited to see who wins. And let's go ahead and
hang on. This was the 5-star review, or the people who left reviews.
Yes, that let us know that they left the reviews.
Oh, gotcha.
There was requirements to this, so
gotcha.
This is everyone that did. Let's spin our wheel. It's going around. Who will it land on? It landed on Papa Squatch.
Wow. Very good. Very good. We'll play celebration music.
Get back to work.
That's right, Papa Squatch. You're still a mod. You still got work to do.
Yes.
Congrats to Papa Squatch. That's awesome. So Squatch, you are definitely one of those people that I'm pretty sure has every single shirt. So let us know if you want one of the regular ones, then that's cool. If not, then wait for the new ones, and we will release the designs. And you'll get I'll tell you this first, you'll get a sneak peek at the brand new designs that are much different and kind of fun. It's gonna be a fun merch batch next time around. So
going a different angle.
Congrats once again to Papa Squatch. Absolutely deserves it. What a legend.
Yes,
absolutely. Speaking of legends, let's thank our patrons real quick, starting with the VIPs.
Let me get we have one review to read. Let me just get that out of the way. This is from JP, and she wrote, "I just love Hometown Ghost Stories. It is such an awesome podcast. I look forward to watching every Tuesday night. The chat community is amazing, fun, and hilarious. The Discord is great. Dave, Rob, and Jesse are so good at everything that this podcast brings to the viewers and listeners, such as the opening video, ghost stories, the discussions, the banter, and the investigations, and sharing those with us. Looking forward to more spooky and terrifying greatness in 2025.
Awesome. Papa Squash asks, can I gift my winnings? Yeah, absolutely. As a mod and as an active member of the Discord, you can do that whichever way you decide to do it. Just let us know who the lucky winner is. Very generous of you, as always. And thanks for that review. If you haven't left a review yet, best way to support the show is Patreon. If you can't join Patreon, then drop a review. If you can't do that, just hang out in live chat. But you can do that. I know you can leave a review, so do it. It helps everything. I know you can figure that out. Let's thank our VIPs real quick on Patreon, starting with Ryan F., Justin W., J Gooch 725, Jennifer A., Jeremy M., Casey W., Brendina 77, Kathy F., Kitten Clown Dozer, Ghost Nurse, JP, Dave has a new kangaroo onesie with a bottom flap, West Virginia coal miner, Tess, Dr. Holmes, and the embalmed head of Abe Lincoln, Kate and Steve M., Sharon V., Glitter Tees, Cami from Washington, Kelly C., Jennifer P., Nick, Liz Young. Took 150 shows, but here's a Rob appreciation post.
Hells yeah.
Not bad. Inspires Gaming, Allison V, Robert H, Anna C, the Sasquatch watching YouTube on Tuesday nights. Very good. Mom and Pops W, Papa Squatch, Lisa J, Oubliette, a sketch. Very good. Thank you for being VIPs. If you want to be an RIP of the week, you can make that list by joining the VIPs and get an episode dedicated to you at some point. Let's head into the next tier, which is the Warren's Words. We have, I'm a Geist who likes to polter. My dance moves just sacrificed the entire altar. All right. The Geist who likes to polter. Very good. Like Degenerate Gambler, Voodoo Ghost who shouldn't have hit on 19. Jamie E, Nick M, T-Cat, Whisper. Jeremy M, Beth C, Rachel G, Sarah B, Her Lady Spookship, Slosh Dadosh Gosh, Julie Gooley, Eugene M, Kath Q, DC, Chris Connolly, LBPS founder, Next, HTGS guest, the other Rachel B, Zeta Chimera, Janice G, Lily, Anthony, hey look, I jumped up a tier T. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey.
It's good to have you there. Vampire sandpaper on Rob's toes. The girl who got scared watching cabin jump scares. Yes. Oh, so you must have watched our the Cabin Factory stream. I'm guessing. Poisoned butter dipping sauce equals never caught. Steph A. And Seth on guitar. Thank you so much for being part of the Warren's Wards. And finally, we will hop into the Ghost Pirate Mafia, starting with Grim Beeper. D, the lobster dancing banana land dinosaur monster. Susan C, just Ghoulie, Witchy Kitty 416, Deb 62, Karen L, Michael M, Rob's slurp hole goblin. Amber R, Brant C, Mrs. Nardozzi, Shane O'Mac, Joe, Shay, Trevor S, Amanda H, Christina S, Kate C, Kelly C, bloop, bloop. Crazy Legs, Cowboys are the worst franchise ever. A good update.
Go good.
And accurate. Mother McTibbles tucking her herd of ghost children into Rob's bed. Sweet dreams, Rob. Miss Macabre, Michelle, Naroku, Cold Warrior, the triumphant return of Youngstown Pizza. D from H-Town, Meta A. Monster Mom 04, Wicked Alley, Dark Snark. Bro, why did my girl tell me that she's water broke? Like, so what? I'm broke too. Megan S, Morgan S, Arcade Hunters, Wayne C. I love that that's your Patreon name. I guess. Rob buys picture of my dog eating hot dog hens. Crystal Quinn, aka not a Rob fan. Thick Boy Freddy's baby mama was definitely yeeted. Alicia E, Thick Ghost is never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. I'm just a Furby walking to Jesse's house, but I can't read, so I'm lost.
Wait, was that all one name?
No, that was split.
Oh.
Those were two. Yeah. Sam from Nepal, Joe R, El Capone, Huggy Bear. A targeted avalanche is a big white thing. That's
a throwback.
There we go. It was a throwback and a current one.
Yes.
Solar Flare, Mariah M, Kiralee J, Rachel B, Cody G, Brandon W, Hoopily Whoopily, Bridge Witch, and Dave Wilkins. Thank you so much for being on Patreon. $3 a month will get you there. The higher you go, the more things you unlock. Get your name on this glorious list that continues to grow, and we thank you guys so much for your continued support. I think that's pretty much it. Anything else before we close things out?
Listener stories next week is what we're doing.
Oh,
cool. Yes.
Okay, then. Well, send us in your ghost stories. They have to be true stories. Don't go making stuff up, but send us in your listener submitted ghost stories. These episodes are my favorite. I love doing these. It's kind of why we started the show. And it is very cool to hear some ghost stories from you guys. So if you're not a member of the Discord, consider hopping into our Discord, and you can go to the hashtag your ghost stories text channel and drop your ghost story in there. If you're not on Discord and don't feel like joining Discord or don't understand Discord, that's okay. You can send us an email, hometownghoststories@gmail.com. You can also hit us with a Facebook or Instagram message. We're more likely to see the emails or the Discord.
I promise you, we are way more likely to see the emails or the Discord messages. The Facebook message, maybe we might at some point see it.
Or you can just go to Rob's house, bang on the window, open the window, and just yell your ghost story at him through the window, preferably in the middle of the night. Yes. But after the stream, don't do it during the show. Although that's what just do it live next week on Tuesday after 9 p.m., maybe 9:30. Open Rob's window, yell your ghost story through the window. I think that would be fine.
We'd hear it.
Yeah, we would. That's what I'm saying. It's just run live on the show.
Gotham would be very pleased if somebody started banging on our window, and perplexed because I'm on the 3rd floor.
I was going to say you need a tall ladder.
If you have the means of making a good and relatively brief audio recording, try to keep it like under 5 minutes. But if you have access to a good microphone, I would not be opposed to if you were to record your own ghost story and tell us in your own words.
It's happened before.
It has happened before. We had a really, really cool one from Australia, which was great. The only thing is you have to have an Australian accent. So that's the only. Or you could do it in my British accent if you can pull that off. It's hard to do. It's really years of crafting it to make it perfect. But anyways, before I come up with any more ridiculous terms and conditions for our listener ghost stories, just send them in. Send them in. We'll read them for you. Once again, big shout out to Brenda C and Jeannie for gifting memberships today, and happy resub day to Savannah. I think that will pretty much do it, ladies and gentlemen. Anything else, guys?
That's it for me.
That's it.
All right, then we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.